We're going to trigger the Alpine Stars Tech Air system, but we're doing it manually. This cannot be done in normal circumstances. We have a lead from the back of the airbag system to the laptop where Jenny is over there, and she is going to trigger it, and it will go off, and you'll be able to see what it's like when the airbag goes off. She's only going to trigger it when I say now. Oh. I didn't say now. I said you trigger it when I say now, and I haven't said now. The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Great at adventure.
Hello and welcome to the July instalment of Adventure Bike TV. Now this month's show is coming from Dick Lovett BMW, which might kind of give the game away as to which brand of bike we're going to be doing in the bike review. So here's the bike review.
For your peace of mind, all our panniers have non-fly-off hinged lids. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
The adventure motorcycle market is no different to retailing anywhere. It's subject to the whims of fashion and trends. It moves and it changes. For a long time it was all about the big engine bikes, the BMW 1200 GS, the Yamaha Super Tenere and the Triumph Tiger Explorer. Then more recently the market got all excited about smaller engines, and bikes like the CCM GP450 and more recently the BMW G310 and the Honda CRF 250 Rally have been the talk of the town. But right now, the middleweights are making a comeback. There is of course the Honda Africa Twin. Triumph have just done a full refresh on the 800 Tiger, and waiting in the wings for later in the year, there's the KTM 790 Adventure and the Yamaha 700 Tenere. And there was absolutely no way on earth that BMW were going to get left behind on this. So here's what they've got to offer. It's the F850 GS. The old F800 was, and how can I put this politely, it was dull and boring. And every time BMW made a change to the engine, which technically should have made it better, in my view it just made it even more dull. And those looks became so outdated. They needed to make a bike from the ground up, and that's what they've done with the 850, and they've made it very off-road oriented. Both versions of the bike have got a 21-inch front wheel. They've moved the position of the fuel tank so it's better in terms of the centre of gravity for going off-road, and they've kept a steel frame to keep it nice and rigid. Now the looks, well, I think it's a lovely looking bike, much better than the old 800. However, how much better does it ride on the tarmac? Anticipation is a funny old thing. And I'm not saying that the BMW 850 GS wasn't eagerly anticipated. It was, but in comparison to the Africa Twin a couple of years ago, the buzz around the 850 GS just seemed a little bit more muted. It was like the difference between waiting for Mission Impossible Rogue Nation and the Christian Bale's Batman. One is the latest version of a long-standing model, and the other is a reboot of an 80s classic. Or maybe that's just my perception of it. However, if you were expecting just another in the line of middleweight GSs, you'd be wrong. Okay, so yes, it is the latest in a line, but it is a totally new bike. Do not get this machine confused with a 750 GS. This is very, very different. The 15-litre fuel tank is between your thighs to optimise the centre of gravity, and there is long travel suspension mated with 21-inch wheels at the front to leave you in no doubt that the designers were building a truly dual sport bike with great aspirations off the tarmac.
Before I get into my thoughts on my first half day of riding this bike, before anybody starts saying, "Where's the adventure model? Why aren't you riding the adventure model?" Because there isn't one yet. You've got the standard bike and you've got the sport, which I'm riding here. I can't believe BMW won't bring out an adventure model, but they don't have a date yet. So, half a day's riding, and what do I think? Well, I wanted to find out whether this bike is a world better than its predecessor, the 800. I mean, it looks a world better. And my God, does it ride a world better. It is such a laugh to ride on the road. And I'll talk a little bit more about that right at the end of the review. I think the thing that really struck me was probably how much fun it was to ride off-road. And I haven't done anything spectacular off-road, it's just been gravel tracks. But it feels so competent. It reminds me a lot of actually the Africa Twin, because when I first rode that off-road, that felt incredibly competent. But whereas the Africa Twin disappointed me on the tarmac, so far, this is not.
I had my paws on the sport model, which gives more riding modes than the standard one, as you'd expect, specifically enduro and dynamic, heated grips and plenty of pro level wizardry, including ABS Pro, Gearshift Pro, and even an Enduro Pro riding mode, on the road for the sum of 10,650 quid. As you'd expect, you can get an Acro exhaust if you want just that little extra bit of bark, and if you want to hear the difference between the two, the BMW website lets you listen to both exhausts. Neat, eh? The TFT display is very tidy and easy to navigate around. For anyone concerned about this being a tall ride, there's a whole host of seat benches with differing seat heights, and you can even have the motorcycle suspension lowered. The extras do not stop there. You can swap the plastic engine guard for an aluminium one. You can opt for a touring package, comfort, dynamic, or even a lights package. There is plenty to spend your money on. This bike is 95 horsepower, bringing it very much in line with the Africa Twin and the Triumph Tiger. But it feels a lot quicker than the Honda, and if you like twin engine bikes, I'd say it's got a bit more character than the Tiger. It's also pretty light. Fully fueled, it's a bit heavier than the Tiger, but lighter than the Africa Twin.
Well, I can summarise this bike pretty quickly. It sounds fantastic, almost like an enduro bike when you're giving it some rally. I think it looks gorgeous and it rides fantastically, whether you're riding it on the tarmac or you're riding it off-road. And against the bikes that you can currently get, so particularly the Tiger 800 and the Honda Africa Twin, I would 100% go for this bike. 100%, clear cut. There are a couple of other bikes waiting in the wings that could complicate it. The Yamaha Tenere 700 and the KTM 790 Adventure, but they're still a few months away. So the question of whether I would have one of these in my garage right now is yes, I would.
All Metal Mule panniers are designed and manufactured in the UK. Metal Mule, engineered to be different. Proud sponsors of the bike reviews on Adventure Bike TV.
You know what? Every so often, it is really nice to be surprised by a bike in the bike review. And I was genuinely surprised by the 850. And I cannot wait for if and when BMW bring out the adventure version. Speaking of adventure, pull up a pew, grab a cup of tea. It's Claire with adventure advice.
Hi there and welcome to Adventure Advice, your monthly AA meeting. I'm Claire and today we're going to be talking to you about IDPs, or otherwise known as International Driving Permits. So an IDP is an official multi-language translation of your driving license. It's used worldwide and it's recognised in over 140 countries when paired with your UK driving license. It's valid for an entire 12 months and can be applied for 3 months in advance, but cannot be applied for retrospectively, so you have to get it before you get going. So where can you get yourself an IDP? You can either pop online and go to the RAC or the AA and have a look for an application form to download there. And then all you need to do is fill it off, add a few more documents to it and pop it off in the post. Ordinarily, it will take around 10 to 14 days for it to get to you. Alternatively, you can pay a small extra fee and it can get to you within a few working days, normally 5 working days. Your other option is that if you're heading on out of the country from the UK and you're popping over to Folkestone, at the AA travel shop there, you can also take along your documents there, fill in a form, and within about 10 to 15 minutes, you can get your IDP given to you there. Another option, if you didn't need some more options there already, is to pop to your local Royal Mail post office. Now do check online on their branch finder as to whether they offer the service before you pop down there. But when you go down, it's a really quick service, almost 5 to 10 minutes, as long as you've got the right documentations, about enough time to grab a cup of tea, have a biscuit, and boom, there you are. You have yourself an IDP. So, what is it that you need in order to be able to get an IDP? Let's have a look. So, when you're going to collect your IDP from the post office, the first thing you're going to need to take is your driving licence. Make sure it's a valid UK driving licence and you also have a photocopy of it. Don't worry, if you don't have a valid UK driving licence and you've just passed your test, you can always take along your provisional licence and your pass certificate. The next thing you'll need to take is your photograph, just a standard passport photograph with your signature on the back. Another thing you will need is some other form of identification, so ideally your passport and a photocopy of the inside of your passport with your photo on it. Last but not least, when you're in the post office, they will give you an application form to sign, and then you would need just to pay a grand sum of £5.50. So make sure you have enough money to cover that. So if you're going to apply via the RAC or AA online, you will also have to include a self-addressed envelope with a couple of stamps. You do have a couple of options though. You can either go with UK tracked, which means you don't have to include any stamps, just an additional £7. Overseas, so it can get delivered to wherever you are, again an additional £7 but no stamps. Overseas courier, which is an additional £27, again you don't have to put any stamps. And then you've also got the option of going priority post, which will mean that this will all get to you within 5 working days of it being received. Ordinarily, it takes around 10 to 14 days to come in anyway. And after all of that, you should receive something that looks a little bit like this. So that's how simple it is to get yourself an IDP. At such a low cost, it's a great thing to have with you and obviously legal in a variety of countries. Please remember to make sure you pair it with a valid UK driving licence, otherwise it doesn't count at all, so you must have both documents at all times. Now, this is for UK nationals only, so if you're from abroad, please check with your National Motoring Association to find out exactly what steps you need to take in order to get your IDP. All of the information has been brought to you today in the best of knowledge that we have. Please be sure to check online with your national companies that we've mentioned, the RAC, AA, or either visit www.exp52.com for some more up-to-date information. Now, on to just the tip. So a quick tip for you is that when you're traveling, we recommend this for all your documents as well. Take a couple of colour photocopies of them and also put them on a USB stick. If you've got the opportunity as well, chuck them on Google Drive or either on a Dropbox account in case you lose all of it, and then at least you've got some backup documents to hand if you need them. Another tip for you guys is to make sure that your international driving permit is put into a waterproof sleeve. Seems like an obvious thing to say, but sometimes people don't do it, and when it gets a bit soggy and a bit crushed up in your tank bag, it just goes to ruin. So waterproof bags all the way. And that's really about it. It's pretty simple, and we hope that we've made things a little bit simpler for you. Now, if you've got any questions or queries, do contact us through Adventure Bike TV, or otherwise pop to our website www.exp52.com.
Whilst we're talking about practical and useful advice, here is top riding tips. Welcome back to Top Riding Tips. Last month you saw me slipping and sliding around on some scary mud, and this month we're going to be looking at riding on gravel. So Mark, let's start off with what's different from riding on mud to riding on gravel?
Okay, well there's lots of different types of gravel to start with. There's rounded gravel and there's shale. We have a lot of shale at Sweet Lamb, so it is a lot slippier because of its very nature. So when you're riding on gravel, same as normal, the same as you did last week rather, was you need to be looking where you want to go and looking to the exit to the corners. Also be in a higher gear so you can let the bike find more grip and a nice position on the bike.
How does that work then? Being in a higher gear helps you find more grip?
Yeah, because basically if you're in a lower gear and the throttle action is a bit sharp, the bike will spin up very, very easily. So if, for instance, you were in third and you were driving, you can use the clutch just to take a bit of power out of the bike and drive the bike easier.
Yeah. And so if I was going from somewhere that was shale to somewhere that was kind of the rounded gravel, is there anything that's particularly different about how I should try and control the bike on those? The
bike will have more movement in a rounded type of gravel. Okay. The front end will have more, you'll have more feeling from the front end. The bike will be twitchier.
Okay.
So it'll roll easier, so you need to carry lots of momentum. In a taller gear, with a standing up, you've got a nice centre of gravity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Okay, let's go.
Gravel tracks.
Yeah.
And specifically taking corners on gravel tracks as well.
Yeah. Basically, gravel tracks, you need good lines. Late apexes, so you've got plenty of time to get in. Standing on the bike, good centre of gravity. Always making sure we're covering our brakes in case of eventualities. But now we're moving on a little bit, aren't we, from where we've come from. So making sure that you're stood on the bike, a little bit of knees bent. Don't stand up like a soldier, being knees bent. Let the bike move underneath you a little bit, looking to where you want to go, which we covered many months ago now. But now we want to bring it into action on gravel roads.
Brilliant.
Okay?
Yep.
Should we have a go?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Keep your head up, look to your exit. Nice. Look to that late apex now. Keep your head up, look into the apex. Okay. Not bad at all, mate. You're on the balls of your feet a little bit, which is not really what we want to be looking at, but that's a little bit further down the road. Okay, Graham, not bad. One thing I did notice, you're making the same mistake as many of them. You're tending to ride on the balls of your feet. Yeah. Which means when you change gear or have to brake, you have to move your feet continually. You're continually moving your feet. Whereas you ride with them where the boot is made for you to stand in, it's easy. It's just a movement. Now, I know some people advocate that and teach that. I don't believe in it. So that's my opinion. That's the way it is. I think it's crazy because you have to move your feet to control the bike. This way, you don't have to do anything. You're there. Other than that, your line choice is good. You're late apexing it, and you're carrying nice momentum. Your head's up looking, good standing position. You need to work on your feet. That's what I would say.
Cool. So, great piece of advice from Mark about where my feet are. And actually, when I think back to how I ride sometimes in the past, I have been conscious of moving my feet, which unbalances me. So it's a habit I've got to unlearn to get myself into.
It's just a technique, isn't it, really?
Okay. So next month we are going to be looking at riding over rocks in gullies. You know what? The show just gets fuller and fuller of the most helpful advice, and there will be some more after the break.
Hi, it's Jenny Adventure Bike Shop. I want to show you the new Climb Ladies Artemis jacket. As with the older Altitude, it's fitted for the female. A lot more ventilation in this one. We have an arm vent at the top here. Also, these pockets have mesh in the back of them, and there's an arm vent for just under the boobs. Adjustment inside for when you're actually on the motorcycle. All throughout the D30 level 2 armour. As with the gents Badlands, they've actually started to make some of the features for females. You can hook back your collar when it's particularly warm weather. Comes in this grey and red, and a high-vis version as well.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Greater adventure.
I've just spent the break wondering to myself, is it appropriate to ask for Lego kits at my advancing age? Now it's time for Under the Visor, and we've got a young lady who was a novice touring South America on her 125.
Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Moto Freight, proud sponsors of Under the Visor.
Hi, I'm Remy. I rode South America on a motorbike, never having ridden bike before, and being completely clueless about the whole thing. Could you do that again? So I was originally just backpacking around Central and South America, and a few days into my trip I saw a big bike in a hostel, and I was like, I want to hitch a few rides on that thing. So I met the biker, and he was pretty hot, which kind of helped the whole situation. I was actually to work for 2 months, so we rode all the way through Central America on it. Then we got to Colombia, and I was like, I think I want my own bike. So I walked into a shop one day, came out with a bike, and had no idea how to ride the thing. So I bought a Yamaha YBR 125, just a tiny little blue thing. It was geared, so yeah. So my friend rode it back to the hostel, and I was again on the back of my friend's bike. And we got to the hostel, and I was like, well, how do I ride this thing? And they were like, you don't know how to ride? I was like, no. So my friend took me to a car park, and we just kind of rode around, did some emergency stops, did a few turns, and that was pretty much it. And then I took on the big bad roads of Medellin in Colombia. So altogether, I rode 15,000 kilometers from Medellin in Colombia all the way down to Chile Chico in Chile, where I unfortunately had to sell the bike because I was coming to the end and I kept breaking it. But yeah, it was a fabulous trip. It took me 3 months to do that. We stopped off at some amazing places. So many things. So I absolutely loved the different roads that we did. So obviously had the highways and the normal roads and everything, but I absolutely love the dirt roads. I crapped myself every time I went on a dirt road, but absolutely loved the feel of it and the thrill. And someone told me, just think of it like dancing. And so when you kind of have no control, just, you know, dance with it, and it totally works. Forgot the question. The worst thing I think for me was that when I was in Peru, I got hit by a truck. It went to go and overtake me and just went into me. So I came off it, rolled across the road, etc. Luckily there was people about that could help me, and I was in hospital for 3 days, which was a bit unfortunate. But it didn't stop me getting back on the bike the day after I got released. Yeah, so as soon as I got back, I was like, I need to get a bike. I need to get a license first. So I went and did my CPT straight away. I did it in the snow, then did my theory, and then did my direct access course. Again, did it in the snow, which wasn't that fun. Kind of had claws for hands after that. And then straight away bought a bike. I wanted a bigger bike. I knew I wanted a bigger bike with a bigger engine, so I ended up buying a big bike. So I've got a Yamaha FZ6 at the moment. It's really big. For me, I'm sure. Do it. Just get over the fear and just do it. Like, you have so much flexibility, so much freedom. It's the best feeling ever. You're at one with nature, and you get to see so many things that not many people get to see. You get to go off have your own little adventures. You meet so many amazing people. I've got my little biker family that I met in Peru, and it's just one of the best feelings ever. Yes. I would love to do all of Africa. I really want to do Eastern Europe. I really would love to do London to Sydney. I just want to go everywhere on a bike. I just love it so much.
Don't ride here. Ride here. Explore new horizons with Moto Freight. Proud sponsors of Under the Visor.
Now it's time for film school, and Tom is going to continue his lesson in editing. However, a small word of warning. Tom has asked me to tell everybody that if you're not seriously into your filming and your editing, you may find this bit a little bit dry. If you do, please feel free to fast forward to the end of the segment.
Hello and welcome to this month's film school. Okay, so first of all I'd like to thank everyone for bearing with us while we cover this quite dull subject, which is editing. It's what everyone was asking for. It's a difficult one to teach, especially in kind of short segments like this, but I hope you've got something out of it. Next month we will be returning to test a bit of gear. We've got a Garmin Vibe, the new helmet camera that they do. Fantastic bit of kit. We've been out using it a lot, so we'll be doing a review of that next month. So as I said, this month is the last in a while on editing, and we're going to kind of cover the last bit of your edit. Now this is a bit more difficult because it varies massively, this part, between all the different editing softwares. They're all very, very different in how they do this. So I'm not going to show you too much on the computer. I'm just going to talk about how I use colour and how colour correction and colour grading work rather than actually the technical bits behind it. Okay, so the first thing to understand is that colour correction and colour grading are different things. Most people think it's two different names for the same thing. It's not. So colour correction, there are two parts to colour correction. The first is to make sure that your footage looks as real and normal as possible. That's what you're doing. You're taking your footage and you're making it look as real and normal to life as possible. The second part of colour correction is then making sure that all your clips match and they all have that same look. So this is going to change dramatically between the various editing softwares. Some you can barely do anything, you can just kind of change exposure levels. Some you can do everything, some has automatic modes. I use Premiere Pro. Premiere Pro always used to be something you did in what's called the luminetry colour panel. However, literally the update they've done a couple of months ago April it was, they've just brought out a new kind of colour match button, which is like an auto way of doing it. It doesn't work all the time, but actually it's a really nice kind of start point. If we're using Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro also has a colour match button, which again works brilliantly. Now, other software doesn't have this. The DaVinci Resolve is a software I've talked about before. It's a fantastic free editing software. The downside is you can't edit 4K footage. The most you can do for free is HD. But again, that's one of the best editing packages when it comes to colour correction, colour grading. However, it's quite complicated. It takes a while to get to learn it. If you're just doing home movies, it's probably more effort than you want to spend. So that, very simply, is colour correction. You're just making the colour look correct. Now, colour grading, that's something a bit more different. So colour grading is actually using colour to stylise your image. A famous director of photography, whose name escapes me, once said that it's like colour grading is painting. It's like an artist painting an image. If you think about most artists don't paint exactly as you see and it look like a photo. There are a few, but most don't. Most have a stylized image, and those styles can vary massively from Picasso to Turner. And this is what you're doing when you grade an image. You're using color to evoke an emotion and add depth to your image and the emotions that your images are bringing. So how do you do this? Well, you can start by adding or removing colour. Steven Spielberg, quite famously, while he was shooting Schindler's List, removed all colour. The whole film was black and white, apart from a little girl's red jacket, just to kind of really emphasise that point. It's quite a clever use of colour, and he's decided to use black and white because he feels that evokes the emotions that he wants to do. Other people might use kind of really vibrant colours, really boost the colours to make it feel. A lot of music videos use this. They really boost the colours to make things look cool and exciting. But it's not just about adding more colour or getting colour away. You can change the colours as well. If you look at a film like The Matrix, to make you feel slightly like things weren't right. When they were in The Matrix, everything had a slight green tinge to it, whereas when they were outside the Matrix, it was normal. And if you look at this month's bike review, you'll see that what I've done is added quite a blue tinge to everything. It's a style I like. It's a style I've decided to go for. It's a stylistic choice. Rather than just making my image look as real as possible, I'm trying to evoke an emotion with the way I colour grade my image. So let's have a look at the Bruce Smart film that we've been looking at here, the introduction. Now, what I decided to do when I actually edited this was take all colour out. So there's no colour at the very start. It's all in black and white, and it's because at that point in time, the voiceover is him talking about memories of his mother. And a nice way to evoke memories is you're saying, well, a memory is something that happened in the past, and people associate black and white with the past, black and white photography, black and white video. So we've put the black and white in there to help emphasise, and it's a subconscious thing to the viewer, but emphasise that, yeah, this is a memory from the past, it's interesting. And then as we move forward, it stays black and white, and at the very end, when he introduces himself, when we get that reveal, that's where we turn to colour. Okay, so as you can see, we've started everything in black and white, and as we talked about before, there's Bruce, but you can't really see who he is. I've also played with the contrast quite a lot on this to make sure that there's a real difference between the blacks and the whites, to try and make them pop a bit more. It's very kind of film noir almost, not quite that level of contrast, but that's the kind of look we're going for. We've also filmed most of this at 50 frames a second rather than standard 25 frames a second, so it's half speed, which makes everything just a bit smoother, a bit more dreamlike. And we're not trying to do a dream scene, but we are trying to invoke memories and emotions, the emotions of those memories. And all these things help. The black and white helps, the slowed down footage, 50 frames a second. So we're telling this story of him going out to visit his bike. I'm sure you've all seen this all the way through by now. It's quite effective. Again, so the black and white here is giving a really nice kind of silhouette of Bruce as he walks to his garage. And it also, if you look here, it really helps the wood pop because you're not concentrating on all the colours. What you're really suddenly seeing is, rather than colour, you're seeing grain. So that's quite an interesting thing that you can get by going black and white, is you concentrate on the texture of things rather than the colour of things, and that can actually make a very, very different and interesting shot. So the nice thing about going the black and white and getting the contrast up as well is all the stuff in the background really kind of fades away into black. You don't have to kind of worry about a kind of messy garage, not that Bruce had a messy garage, but a messy garage behind you. And here we see it pop to colour. This is the reveal. This is Bruce saying, "This is who I am," and introducing himself. And that is the real kind of pop. That is, "Hello, I'm Bruce." Bang. And then we stay in colour for the final bit where we've revealed his face now. We stay in colour because it helps us see the kind of red in his eyes and the emotion. So we stay in that colour until the end of the shot. So yeah, that's how we've told a story, through editing and through colour. Okay, so that's the basics of colour correction and colour grading. I realise I haven't actually really shown you how to do it, but it varies so differently between editing softwares. If anyone particularly is working on Premiere Pro and would like a bit more information, please just give me a shout and I will happily help you. But there's no point in going into a long-winded explanation here because I'll do it on this software and then someone else will be using a different software and it'll be completely different. So any direct questions, please feel free to ask. I'm not going to go over titles. I might do that in some later episodes, but again, titles vary so hugely between editing softwares. It's really not worth doing when everyone's using different software. But if there are any direct questions, please feel free to drop me a line. I'm happy to help as much as I can. That's it really. Next month we'll be doing a review of the Garmin Verb, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for sticking with us through the editing stuff. Hopefully it'll get more interesting again now. I'll see you next month.
So, did you watch it? Did you not? Did you watch it? Did you not? Bothered? Anyway, now it's time for bike build with Sam and Tom. And it turns out they're going to be building 2 bikes, not 1.
Hello and welcome to this month's bike build.
It's way too hot, Tom. Just use an old one. Just use an old one. Come on.
Okay. Cue credits. Okay, so we're here with the bike that Sam bought without my permission, and literally our first point of call is to try and get this thing running.
Yep.
It doesn't run.
No. I've tried starting it, and
by starting it you mean you just put a bit of fuel in and pressed a button and nothing happened?
Well, because there's no fuel tanks, I've just had to drop a bit in the top and see if it even just cranks over.
Does it?
No.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay!
So I was just hoping it's something simple.
Okay.
So fingers crossed.
So today is basically figuring out where we are with the bike, having a bit of a more in-depth look, trying to figure out why it won't start.
Yep.
Okay, let's get started. What's first? Okay, so we've been at this for most of the day
Yep.
now. We didn't film all of it because it was dull.
Tedious and boring. Yep.
Okay, so what did we do? The first thing we did was pop a new battery in the bike, because if the electrics aren't coming on, that's always my go-to place.
Yep.
Nothing. We have replaced this, which is the
Starter relay.
That
looks a bit burnt out, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's literally got burn marks on it, and it's just crap and corroded and things like that. Still wouldn't start, so we took the alarm out because that has an immobiliser function on it.
Yeah, wherever that's gone. There we go.
That has an immobiliser function on it, so we thought that might be stopping anything happening.
Yep.
Although the electric still should have at least done something. It was nothing. So, yeah.
So, who knows? We've done spark plugs, we've checked. I mean, we've even gone into the throttle body, and
I mean, realistically, mechanically,
it seems to be fine.
It seems in pretty good condition, to be fair. The issue seems to definitely be an electrical issue, and I think we have reached our kind of, well, my knowledge was reached when I changed the battery and that didn't work. Sam's knowledge of
it's not much more, but I've had these bikes before, and so I know the pitfalls of them and their weak points. Yeah, but
so we now have a bigger problem because there are some other issues with this bike. Mechanically, it looks pretty sound, but there are some bolts that have been
sheared. I think some of the tightening bolts on the front wheel they've sheared, so we're going to have to re-drill them, or just try and remove it somehow.
The issue we have is that we have something very special in mind for the rally bike, and it's at a specific time. We don't want to tell anyone what it is yet. It's a bit of a surprise.
Is it my birthday?
No.
No.
But I think the issue we have now is that realistically, I don't think we're going to get this done in time for that, because we're looking at getting someone in to look at the electronics. That could end up being quite a big job. We don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of sorting all the bolts and things out, just to get this thing running and actually roadworthy again is going to be quite a task.
Yeah.
And obviously Sam and I are both fitting this around our standard day-to-day jobs. But we do have something specifically in mind for the rally bike. So, my suggestion was, which Sam was kind of, and then he kind of thought, oh well, that's quite cool because it's my bike.
Yeah.
Is we actually do a double bike build.
Double trouble.
Double trouble.
Ah, yeah.
So what we're going to do is, as most of you know, Sam already has a slightly newer 990 R, Adventure R, which is in pretty good working condition, no issues. What we're going to do is we're going to take that bike and turn it into the rally bike.
Yep.
Because at that point, you know, we know that we are going to be able to have it made and sorted in time to do the big thing we want to do with it. We are not giving up on this bike, so what we're going to do instead is turn this bike. First of all, we're just going to document us fixing it and getting it back onto the road. So, you know, for instance, when we need to drill out the bolts and things like that, we'll show you exactly what we're doing, so if you have the same problem, you can do it too. We probably won't show you too much of the electronic stuff because we won't understand and we won't be doing it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn this bike into a full-on long-distance adventure bike. So luggage, big tanks, the whole kind of caboodle.
Protection, lights, you name it,
yeah. So the idea is that we'll now end up with two bikes, both starting as a base bike, an almost identical bike, just slightly different in age. And at the end of it, we'll have an amazing rally bike and an amazing adventure bike, which will look and do very, very different things, but they'll come from a base bike. So technically you're getting two bike builds for the price of nothing because no one pays to watch this show.
You lucky dogs, you.
So yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll be kind of flicking back and forth between these two bikes as we build. and keep you up to date on everything we do. At this point, I'd like to say, Sam, pick this bike. So
it's going to be awesome.
It will. To be fair, I quite like the idea of doing 2 bikes. So.
Yeah, and this bike's going to be awesome.
Yes, it is.
Awesome bike.
Anyway, that's it. So we will see you next month for more bike builds, where we will start working on the other bike and see if we can find out what's wrong with this one. Cool. See you next time. Cue credits. Bah!
Well, that was the show, packed fuller than a tin of sardines. Now, before I go, if you're one of our Patreon supporters, we have some big news coming up for you. If you're not one of our Patreon supporters, why not? And we have some big news coming up for you. Keep an eye out on our Facebook page and the website, and we'll see you next month.
We're going to trigger the Alpinestars Tech Air system, but we're doing it manually. This cannot be done in normal circumstances. We have a lead from the back of the airbag system to the laptop where Jenny is over there, and she is going to trigger it, and it will go off, and you'll be able to see what it's like when the airbag goes off. She's only going to trigger it when I say now. Oh. I didn't say now. I said you trigger it when I say now, and I haven't said now. The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Greater adventure.
The Adventure Bike Shop, proud sponsors of Adventure Bike TV. Rubbish adverts.
Greater adventure.